You guys ever notice how Ikora is always spamming abilities anytime she's in a battle cutscene? Like she just got her first PlayStation and immediately pulled up the Game Shark? Oh, hey, Battle Eye. You want to explain this one? No? What do you mean, no? Well, if we're not gonna ban Ikora, we might as well join her. So today, we're taking a trip down memory lane. Sometime between Forsaken and the Beyond Light era, Devour was having a reign of terror, and how good it was. But, well, actually, wait, that's still how it is. Anyway, at one point in D2's lifespan, Controverse holds were the definition of peak Void Warlock. They provided everything you needed simply at the cost of throwing your grenade, and Bungie thought the same thing. So they ended up nerfing the exotic and its recharge rate so far that people outright stopped running the exotic entirely and eventually Void altogether due to the rise of power creep in general, not to mention Prismatic down the line. Fast forward to Edge of Fate, and today I'm glad to see Void Warlock is not only back, but has gotten the major boost that it needed, and this includes once again pairing it up with the Controverse Hold exotic. Thanks to a recent round of buffs, your Void Warlocks can now do the following with relative ease, and mostly with just your grenade button. You'll have unlimited grenades, unlimited healing, your grenades can each make multiple orbs and clear out entire rooms by themselves without ever firing a gun. You'll get Nova Bomb supers in seconds, and you'll have unlimited weaken on every single enemy. Also, quite possibly the best change in all of this, you will never have to rely on Echo of Undermining ever again to weaken your enemies at the cost of 20 grenade points. What a nightmare that fragment has been. Let's get started. For those of you that are new, what are Controverse Holds and what do they do now? They read the following. Resist incoming damage while charging your Void Grenade with Chaos Accelerant, which is going to be one of our aspects, and charging Void Grenades return grenade energy on a hit and apply Weaken. Thanks to Controverse now applying Weaken by default via charged grenades, we no longer have a use for Undermining and its dumb negative effect, and can instead use a different beneficial fragment, and thanks to the other effect of Controverse, where you'll return grenade energy on hits, and the effect of our second aspect, which is going to be Feed the Void, you'll be able to quite literally have unlimited grenades back and forth chaining to each other. Shax would be so proud. Speaking of abilities, let's talk about the subclass kit. So our super is going to be Cataclysm Nova Bomb, although technically speaking, you can run whatever you want if you prefer either of the other two choices. Our before mentioned aspects are going to be Chaos Accelerant, which overcharges our grenade effects, we'll get to that in a second, and also give us a second grenade charge, something we didn't have the benefit of in the past. Our second aspect is of course going to be Feed the Void, also known as the Devour button. Devour will not only allow us to consistently heal every single time we get a kill, but it'll also give us improved regen for our grenades, which is massive. Now about those overcharged grenades. For this build specifically, all we care about is going to be either Vortex, Scatter, or Axion grenades. All these are good and have certain benefits. For example, scatter grenades hit like a truck, but cover a small radius. Here's a clip of that. Then we have Vortex Grenades, old reliable. These are good for sucking in waves of enemies together and having them all take tick damage over time until one of them explodes, which in turn will make all of them explode. Except they're bugged right now. Lastly, we have my personal pick for the build, Axion Bolts. I have never been a fan of these in the past. They did very little for the power fantasy, in my opinion. However, the current version of them, absolutely disgusting. Not only does this version of Axion spawn in several of them, but they are also supercharged and actively seek out any enemies in the area to detonate on twice, actually. And once they do detonate, they'll also split off and head towards the next close target. Basically, you have built-in pocket nukes that have Truth Rocket level tracking and can deal with multiple targets in several directions, and you basically have an unlimited amount of these to throw because, remember, we get grenade energy on hits and kills, plus anything else that affects our recharge stats. Speaking of stats, let's go over our stats real quick. So our main stat is, of course, going to be grenade. We're maxed out at 200 for the maximum amount of cooldown, plus the maximum allowable damage, which is going to be 65%. Some of you might be thinking, well, why don't you just make this like 160 or something, and then use fonts, and then you can put the other points into something else. We'll get to that. It's based on the armor mods. But aside from grenade, you don't actually need anything else. But with that said, I did try to put in 100 super, just to get our Nova Bomb as fast as we can, and then 60 class ability, just to get my rift back at a decent rate, so it's not taking 4 years. With that, let's segue into our class ability plus our fragments. So for our class ability, typically you go with Healing Rift, just as the safe pick, right? But in this build, you could go with Empowering Rift, which is what I ended up picking, because recently Bungie changed the Empowering Rift to not only give you bonus weapon damage, but also ability recharge for when you're standing inside of it. So technically speaking, you could get your abilities back faster if you're using an Empowering Rift. But if you're in higher end content or under leveled, etc., Healing Rift is still a very good pick. Also, while you're in a Empowering Rift, you do get higher ammo generation too. As for our fragments, there's honestly only really 4 ideal choices to make as far as Void Warlocks go, at least in my opinion. Maybe Echo Reprisal, but that's very situational, so I don't really count that. But the 4 that I'm talking about are going to be the best option overall, at least currently in the game. You don't really even need to think about it. And they are the following. Off-rip, we're starting with Echo of Harvest. This states defeating weakened targets, which remember, your grenades weaken everything, creates an Aura of Power and a Void Breach. Void Breaches will give you class ability energy to get your Rift back faster, and then Auras of Power will fuel several things, either getting abilities back faster, getting your super back faster, or fueling something like weapon surges in your boots. Next is Echo of Instability. Defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your void weapons. This is where our energy or heavy comes into play. Me personally, I've been using Choir of One literally since it's come out, so it already hasn't come off, but it also happens to be the best void weapon we currently have in the game, so it's just an easy decision to put that in my energy slot. It nukes enemies with its Wyvern mode. It can be used as an ADS weapon, like a scout rifle basically, and it still does the job perfectly. So that's why I have instability here. But if you don't have Choir, if you didn't play back then, if you're new and you haven't gotten Choir of One or haven't gotten it yet and you need a different weapon, good replacements, at least for the time being, would be Reckless Oracle from Garden of Salvation. You have Lotus Eater, which used to come from GM Nightfalls, RIP GMs. You have Exalted Truth, which comes from Trials. Or if you have none of the above, then you could just go to Shaxx and try to get a Joxer's Longsword, which can roll with things like Weeble Rounds and Withering Gaze, so that's a plus. Anyway, back to our fragments. The third one is going to be Echo of Expulsion. Your void abilities cause targets to explode. So anytime you get a group of ads and you kill something with one of your grenades, then that will start a chain reaction and make more explosions, basically wiping out anything in that radius. And finally, we have Echo of Persistence, which gives us an extended duration on things like Invis, Overshields, and Devour. Mainly here, we're talking about Devour. Now that we have that out of the way, what is your gameplay loop? Well, it's as easy as it looks. You walk into a room, if you have your super, you launch that first. If you don't, then you start throwing grenades like Shaxx is tearing a hole into your soul. The reason why you want to start with your super, if you have one, is because it'll be laughably easy to get another one back very quickly thanks to our armor setup. In particular, I'm referring to our helmet and our gloves, which will feature Ashes to Assets in our helmet and Firepower in our gloves. Ashes will give us super energy every single time we get a grenade kill, while Firepower will create Auras of Power up to 2 at a time per grenade every time we throw a grenade and kill something. Just on these 2 mods alone, you will cycle through your supers in a matter of seconds when there are enemies around. Once you get a kill with, well, literally any of your abilities, you now have Devour active, which means healing and grenade recharge on demand. And now you can also incorporate weapon kills into this and refresh Devour through that too. Finally, let's talk about armor mods. As always, I'll have a dim link down below in the description if you want to check out the build on your own. And while you're down there, you can also follow the socials. But with that said, let's show it on screen, just for anybody that doesn't use dim. So in our helmet, we have 2 copies of Ashes to Assets, as I mentioned earlier. This gives us super energy when we get grenade kills. And then I have 1 copy of Harmonic Siphon for void weapon kills. So for me, it'd be Choir, for another version of getting Auras of Power on the ground. Then in our gloves, I have 3 copies of Firepower. The reason for this, instead of 2 fonts and 160 grenade energies, because every time I throw my grenade, I will make orbs, because the cooldown with 3 copies is 1 second. If I had only 1 Firepower, it would be a 10-second cooldown, making orbs much less frequently. So instead, I opted to go with 3 to make orbs non-stop, and I pump my grenade stat to 200 instead. In my chest, it's Resist plus 1 copy of Charged Up, just to have an extra armor charge for things like Special Finisher. In my boots, I have 1 copy of Insulation, just to get my cooldown on my class ability lessened anytime I pick up an orb, and then 1 copy of Strand Weapon Surge, and then 1 copy of Void Weapon Surge, just for both Choir and Mint when I'm stacking orbs nonstop anyway. And in my class item, I have 1 copy of Powerful Attraction to scoop up orbs when I use my Rift, 1 copy of Distribution to lower the cooldown of everything, and then 1 copy of Special Finisher when I have a ton of armor charges and I happen to be running low on ammo. I'll use this to get some ammo back. And that is the build. Warlocks seem to be having a theme of this season where they get these crazy builds where they just refuse to use their weapons and instead nuke everything with their abilities, whether it be grenades or buddies on their shoulders, just jolting everything non-stop. Anyway, really fun build. If you're a Void Warlock enjoyer, I highly recommend you check it out. In the meantime, if you did enjoy the video, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow and is much appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or comment below as well. If you don't know what to leave as a comment, you could leave "Ikora is a cheater" as a comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.